right club. Be the right club today.
Johnny, that's better than most.
How about in?
That is better than most. Better than most.
Expect anything different?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up Live Show, presented as always by our friends at High Noon. Solly here. TC is here with Gold Boy. Hello, TC.
I found Gold Boy. He's here. We've relocated him. I brought him back to my house with me.
The top comment last night was indeed that it was the ghost of Gold Boy that was trying to dial in through Shane's AirPods, which didn't quite work out as well as we would have liked. And then coming in from the bullpen, you could play the music. He's been warming up. He is plenty warm, and he is here. Victor Rito, Neil Schuster is back and joining Saturday Players Recap. Hello, Neil.
I'm absolutely chuffed to be here. I think I just blew out some people's eardrums and stereos in their cars. But that's the kind of energy you guys asked me to bring out of the bullpen. I think it's more of a Craig Kimbrell situation. So happy to be here. Guys, I'm up in New York. I'm very jealous watching the coverage on TV. It looked like an absolute perfect day out there. So I'd like to start things off tonight. I'm going to take the wheel. I'd like your best experience today.
I'm gonna go ahead and take the wheel right back from you and let your guy get in the opening ad read for me.
That's
okay?
right. Okay, cool.
All right, you got to get your warm-up pitches in. All right, you can't just come in here throwing 98 out of the bullpen. All right, so the live show is, of course, presented by our friends at High Noon. It is here, the new High Noon tequila seltzer made with real Blanco tequila and real juice, just like the vodka ones. This stuff is the real stuff. It's not the malt crap that gives you the headache between the ears. Neil is indeed showing off the vodka one that we are not doing the ad read for. Thank you, Neil. 0 for 2.
We drank all the tequila.
We did drink a lot of tequila.
I'll have a word on that in just a second, but please continue.
They are available in 4 bright, crisp flavors: strawberry, lime, grapefruit, and passion fruit. They're only 100 calories. They're gluten-free, no added sugar. They hit shelves on March 1st, and they are rolling out across the country over the next 2 months. Look for them in your stores. They are fully available nationwide by May 1st, just in time for summer. And you can see it. You can find it at Drizzly, at your local convenience or liquor store, or visit highnoonspirits.com to find it near you. Thank you to High Noon for bringing us all of the live shows all week long around all of golf's biggest events this year. We got someone in the bullpen. Another guy in the bullpen we'll be bringing in soon, not replacing Neil, but kind of
Come on, I'm a setup guy. I'm a setup guy. All right. That's how it works. I do want to say I had to go to a couple different stores to find just any High Noon. The stuff, it might be a shortage in the NYC area, and you got to go to the liquor store, because it is real alcohol. It's real spirits. Can't go to Whole Foods. Can't go to the grocery store. So how about that?
Not in Florida, baby.
I know. That's tough. But Solly, listen, you want me to take the wheel, or do you want to bring in the next guy from the bullpen? You tell me.
Why don't you tee him up? Go ahead. You're itching for the ball.
Well, I think it's we're going to bring KVV in for one of our closers here, and the question stands for all three of you guys. KVV, welcome. First off,
no, thank you. What a pleasure to be here.
I want to know what the best thing you saw today on site was.
The best thing I saw today was the 3-iron that Scottie Scheffler hit into number 8. I think I can describe it as erotic. It was just filthy. It was very tragic, just taking off like an airplane, cut through, a little bit of wind, landed pin high, and then he hit a really beautiful putt that sort of trickled around the hole and down into the cup. He was coming off a bogey right before that, and so it just was kind of really, really a cool thing to witness. You don't see shots like that up close from your television. That's the same way that you feel them in person.
It's the kind of I was not there for that, but it sounds like the kind of shot that's just like, dude, you need to go out in person once a year at least, just to be reminded that it's not like the little pretty lines you see on television are not how it looks when you watch in person. Like, you're watching how far away the targets look, how narrow the actual possible landing areas are, the shot shapes, feeling the wind in their face or whatever that might be going on, and seeing that in person sounds like it had a little effect on you, if you will.
Yeah.
Right before that, Ben Griffin hit a shot. Sorry to interrupt, but right before that, Ben Griffin hit a shot that was like a lower trajectory, and I was like, "Oh, that's going to be awesome!" And it landed like 30 yards short of the green. I was like, "Oh, actually, he badly mishit that." And then when Scottie stepped up and did it, I was like, oh no, that's the difference right there between like a great golfer who plays on tour, but a great golfer who might be like in the Hall of Fame one day.
KVV, I was gonna say the same thing. Like out there on 8T, it's not a very good hole, I don't think, but it's kind of a litmus test for like, all right, you're a bona fide adult here versus you are a Korn Ferry Tour graduate kind of thing. Same thing, like just on I was on 5T watching groups come through and watching Scottie hit that tee shot, and then somebody like Ben Griffin, it was like they're playing two different sports. It was crazy.
Yeah. The ball just really doesn't ever leave the line that Scottie hits it on. I mean, it's interesting that in a way that it kind of floats a little bit, almost like it just powers through the wind in ways that like most iron players don't. I don't know if I am describing it all that well, but a really beautiful like golf shot that's just penetrating the wind, it just doesn't move at all. It just kind of like maybe it wiggles a little bit, but that might be like a deceptive thing to your eye. It's fascinating.
I said this before, but Scottie, seeing it in person, you watch it on TV. Part of the reason why he probably doesn't pass Big Randy's eye test is like it looks funky on TV, the slide and like the little over the top move and just the motion in general. But when you see it in person, connected to the ball flight, it's like, oh, dude, how do you ever hit one offline? Like that, it just seems like the best possible way to get one, the club face going down the target line as far as long as possible. I continue to not know anything about the golf swing, but he does make it look extremely easy. And it makes me wish that I had that kind of like coordination between my lower body and upper body to be able to make a golf ball move that way.
Solly, I echo that in a big way. I feel like there's a narrative around Scottie that he's boring, and maybe off the course you could.
It might be us saying that.
But I find him fascinating to watch play golf. The way he's got all this stuff going on in his lower body, but nobody squares up the club face better than him. And he's got this, I don't know what the right analogy is, but it's like, it almost feels like the O'Doyle's rule car going off the road in Billy Madison. It's just like, they're like him getting the club face through the zone with his feet like almost off the ground. And the way he's able to generate enough power to do that is like I don't get sick of watching that. So I feel like when people say he's boring, sure, maybe he is in person, but I find his golf game electric. So
what does that have to do with the O'Doyle?
Yeah, the car goes off the road.
The car goes off the road. I would like to dig in on that. The car goes off the road and kind of he just sends it through the zone, like through the guardrails, and it floats.
Like accelerating.
It's accelerating off the cliff. It's still, carrying out there. Like there's just a lot of forward momentum. When he gets the club almost back at the top, his hands are high. The way he gets it through the zone is like, I can't think of anybody else that, attacks the golf ball like that with KVV, to your point, he's the artist to me versus Rom, who's much more of the mechanic, right? And I've gotten wrapped into a couple of these mechanic versus artist Twitter threads that I don't know whatever's going on out there, but I feel like Scheffler between his swing, his full swing, and then I don't think he gets enough credit for his hands around the green. Like I think he's the best chipper in golf, like full stop. It's unbelievable what he does with his wedges.
He and Ted Scott, he was explaining in his presser afterwards, have a bet about how many chip-ins he'll have all season. And he's already broken it. Like today, on the chipping in on two for the Eagle, basically like won the bet. So he was teasing Scott about like, well, you got to already pay up the money, like, and it has to be on you like right now. And we were sort of asking him like, wait, is this kind of a weird bet for Ted? Does he root against you to break it sometimes? It's like, oh yeah, sometimes he'll root for a chip to miss, like if I'm chipping in too many. But no, he also kind of talked a little bit about when he was a kid. We were talking a little bit to his coach. A lot of his chipping stuff he learned basically chipping against Colt Knost and Justin Leonard when he was growing up around them, and just basically like being a 12-year-old and beating them in chipping contests. And now, like in this same practice facility in Dallas, there's kids who are like trying to do the same thing to him. And his coach was saying like when it happens, when the kids beat him, he's pissed. He's still like really burns hot on it and is like, I want a rematch right now.
Wait.
That was 10 times. 10 times was the bet, the chip-in bet that's already been reached. And I will say, I don't care what they're I don't know what they're betting, but I know that 10% of $4.5 million is $450,000 for Ted Scott. So I think he'll be able to pay up whatever that debt might be.
How is
he hope so. Scottie said he has to have it on him. So
how is he doing this with Leonard if he's much older than Leonard, right?
That's true.
CC was going to get that joke in no matter what obstacles were thrown his way.
Come on. I'm open for 3. Come on. I love it.
His hands are great everywhere. Like it's not just around the
Yeah.
greens. His hands are just insane everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's,
Do you
I think
think
it's this
I was-
abstract concept. He's able to, like, who knows what's going on with his feet and his lower body. And every like golf instructional video I feel like I watch, it's like, oh, you want to have a firm base, you know, you turn, it's all in the hips, this stuff. And he just finds a way to get that club face around with his hands. It's truly amazing. And I don't find that boring at all. I every time he comes on TV, I look up. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch what his feet do here. And then when he's chipping, it doesn't matter what grass he's on. And it always seems like he attempts the hard shot too, and then like executes it. Like he, you know, opens the face up and he's able to spin it. It's just really, really fun to watch.
I was talking to a pro this week who said that they thought he boned that chip in the Masters on 3 when he chipped it in, and they were like, "Yeah, that was going like 50 feet by. It was a terrible shot." And I was like, "Really? Like, was it that bad?" Like, seemed like he bounced it right into the slope there and did kind of exactly what he wanted. Like, they're sort of, I don't know. Scottie didn't pass the eye test for them, so I definitely won't name that person.
It didn't hit he didn't skull it, but it didn't hit the bank in the way that he wanted it to, and it was going to go by, but it wasn't like he mishit that chip. But it's going to be interesting going down the stretch of the Masters. The 4-putt on 18 when the nerves really did take over, and if you go back and look at, I guess I view Scottie differently after he reflected on crying the morning of the Masters, Sunday morning of the Masters, and I wonder if the moment was too big for him. Him getting to 17 tomorrow with a relatively big lead, if there's any kind of conditions at all, I haven't looked at what they're going to be. That could be really interesting. I know he's been a closer and he's executed pretty much any time he's been in this spot, but kind of viewing it through that lens, like that kind of moment is going to be a totally different thing, on the 71st hole of the tournament tomorrow.
He said that today he still gets nervous. He's like, I still get nervous for Thursday rounds. Like, I don't get, I'm not sitting here like telling you I've got it all figured out. So yeah, for sure. That's going to be awesome.
Conditti's tomorrow. Just pulled it up on the app. This is the GFS model. Winds are going to start ramping up a little bit later in the afternoon out of the south. Very different wind than we've had today. Out of the south, we're going to get gusts up to 26, 27, 28 miles an hour.
Jesus.
6 or 7 p.m. Kind of ramping up as we go along. So the North American model showing very similar. The models are in great alignment tomorrow night.
Tron Cantori. So that's 4 separate wind directions.
I don't think we've gotten west, have we? It's like south or southwest. I don't think we've had that. We've had north, northeast, and east, and then a little bit of southeast yesterday.
It's not a win yet for Scottie. Like, I don't want to give it away too quickly, but man, his win profiles we've already commented about how eclectic they are in terms of he's won a Waste Management twice. Obviously that's a common theme there, but a match play on a funky golf course at Austin Country Club, going to Bay Hill, winning with thick, rough, firm ass greens and a terrible golf course. And then going to Augusta, wide, undulating, totally different style of golf. Now going to technical double black diamond skiing with Pete Dye. That would, just a wildly different, like, I don't know how to describe that other than like not being a horse for course style kind of guy. Just I can truly pick up my game and take it anywhere. Would be extremely noteworthy if it comes to that tomorrow.
It's going to be so hard to beat him at Augusta if he's playing even remotely close to this tee to green. I mean, his iron play is insane.
You know
what? The one thing.
Go ahead.
The one thing that
putting well. Interestingly enough.
He's barely above average on strokes gained putting so far this week, which is he's almost gone full Vijay Singh.
The one thing that did piss me off today a little bit is anybody else noticing that the collars are pretty shaggy this year at Sawgrass?
Like I thought you meant Scottie's collars on his shirt.
No, like the collars around the greens. Like that shot he hit into 13 was not good and probably should have gone in the water.
Should have spun in. Yeah.
Oh, they're catching a lot of balls, you're saying.
Yeah.
That would certainly be the case. I think it introduces some really hard shots around the green, like balls going up against, like resting up against the fringe and, really close to the hole, but in thick rough can be really challenging shots. But there's been some, I feel like it's been that way ever since they went to March though. I feel like all of that has been kind of catchy.
And like, I know it rained like an inch last night, but I mean, there was one from Jason Day today where he was basically hitting a flop shot from the collar off of 17.
That was wild.
And it
Which
was
he
like,
holed out, so he deserves credit for that. I mean, it
totally
was a really, really good golf shot.
But it was just like, whoa, like that. I don't think I've seen that shot ever on that hole, you know?
Well, it's weird. The areas of the rough where they've actually shaved the rough down a little bit, trying to get the ball to roll a little bit, you can see the Bermuda coming through there, right? The rye is the parts that they have intentionally not mowed is when you get the rye up high. But anything they've mowed down, it's like, oh shit, that's Bermuda there. And I don't know if that makes it easier or harder for these guys. Nothing really seems to phase them, but it was noteworthy to you can see the hot winter coming through in the rough areas that are mowed down a little bit more.
KVV, what you followed Scottie a lot today? Kind of an eclectic group. What was the vibe like in the group?
I would say it was pretty. I wouldn't say it was like overly friendly. It was Scotty kind of keeps to himself. Doesn't really make a lot of small talk with some of the other guys. Be interesting to see how he and Minwoo, sorry, are tomorrow. We were asking him in the presser, what do you know about Minwoo? And he's like, oh, I know him well. I feel like he's super talented. So I feel like, I don't know, Scotty doesn't really like seem like a cooler. He's not like Tiger where he's kind of giving guys the stiff shoulder, but he isn't like super going out of his way. He just kind of like, he likes to walk alone, likes to kind of walk by himself. Doesn't even always, wait for Ted in a lot of the ways. So
he's kind of like the old guy on the beach taking a walk, every day, just kind of on. He's just doing his own thing. I don't know. I want to say this though about this is more macro, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think, but I feel very like thankful and lucky that we've got Rahm and we've got Scheffler, and Rory, but mainly those two opposite ends of the spectrum to me, and how they approach the game of golf and how they hit the golf ball. Like if you were a coach, or if I was, if I had a son, I'd be like, hey, you follow Rahm. That's how you want to hit the golf ball. Like, look at the way he transfers his power. Look how compact and efficient his swing is. But like, I'm more attracted to the way that Scheffler approaches golf and the way that he hits the ball. And we have these two guys that are going basically changing places at the top of the world rankings. And you get to watch these two different styles like on display, week over week in these designated events. And I think it's awesome. So, I wish Rahm didn't WD, but we've been talking about Rahm a lot the last 2 months. And it's just nice to see Scheffler's like, no, don't forget about me, and look at the way that I can do it in a completely different style. And it's, just as good.
The cream is certainly rising to the top here.
A little bit, like from one guy, really. It's still like below that. I'm still like waiting for more cream to be rising. Like Morikawa was most definitely not rising today.
I think that Rory is the most interesting golfer in the world. I think that Jon Rahm is the most relentless golfer in the world. And I think Scottie Scheffler is the most complete golfer in the world right now. That's the way I'm sort of looking at it, is that if Rahm is coming at you, like you can feel the sort of intimidation, like oh man, like Rahm is breathing down my neck. But Scotty, if he's not playing great, he's still hanging around 6th, 5th. He's climbing the board. Whereas Rory just like is capable of like what he did this week, being totally shooting himself out of it, or doing what he did at Augusta on Sunday last year, just completely blitzing the field. And so it'd be fascinating when they all are kind of show up. Maybe Augusta will pair them together. Who knows?
What do you think Rahm's or Scheffler's worst finishes? He finished T45 at the CJ Cup to start this season. What do you think his worst finishes on the PGA Tour since that? Just take a guess.
Like T12?
T12.
16. T12. Wow.
T12. Are you serious? T12?
I
pulled that out of my ass.
T3, T9, second, T7, T11, win, T12, T4. Those are his results. He's having a better season this year than he had last year. He's picked up a half a shot off a year that he won 4 times last year. It's just, if it wasn't for Rahm, we would be talking about this probably a lot more. Like, we have called attention to that several times, especially after his win, to say like, hey dude, people thought he cooled off. Nah, dog. Like he is that dude. And man, just go back. I want to go back now and watch. I'm sure it was nothing but commercials when it actually happened. But the singles match at Whistling Straits between Rahm and Scheffler is so interesting to look back on, because at the time Scheffler was 12th guy on the U.S. team. Rahm was clearly number 1 guy on Europe at that point. But Scheffler beat him pretty badly. And I would love to go back and watch that now through the different prison that we understand Scotty from. It's quite a development over the last.
I will stick up for my guy Cantlay. I'm here in the tool aisle. He is the toolsiest golfer on tour. He has all the tools.
That's good.
In his toolbox.
Sully, we were talking with Rory a little bit on Wednesday, and one of the things that he said, I think it was right before you got there, was, man, it's weird to think like I remember being paired, maybe it was in a practice round with Scottie before he had won here, and he was like just a guy, and he was like, now like look at him, like he won once, and then the Ryder Cup, and then he won, and he just was like relentless. It's almost like Rory was like processing, man, life can come at you fast, and then it really can. Like all of a sudden, you're the best dude in the world, and you've been. Someone's been drafted right by you like a NASCAR race.
Well, those guys we're talking about on Live From this morning, I caught a little bit of that, and I thought it was a good point about the players on that Ryder Cup team almost picked him, told Stricker, like, hey, we want this guy. Mm-hmm. And to be, I don't know, have that confidence from the best players in the U.S., it almost, I think, was the jump start of his career of like, oh, you belong here, and we want you on the team. And then he balls out, and it's like, okay, I belong. It was almost like a way for him to get that confidence a little quicker.
Totally.
The leap this year has been off the tee for Scottie. He's picked up accuracy. He's picked up a little bit of distance, and he's gained over almost a half a shot off the tee. And he was already a very positive driver of the golf ball prior to that. So that's where it's really coming from. Iron play looks exactly the same. Putting almost the same. Around the green looks exactly the same. But he's just picked up a half a shot per round off the tee. Might not sound like a lot, but oh my God, is that a lot? That's the difference in winning a lot of golf tournaments and sorry to take a dig at my guy, but like Tony Finau and finishing a lot of top fives.
Interesting.
Tough. KVV, I have a question for you, and then I want to hear what Solly's best moment was. I know we kind of skipped over you, Solly, on the front end there, but where do you place Rory in the mechanic versus artist discussion?
I would say artist. I think is often. I mean, here's a guy who's tried to hit a fade, who's tried to sort of, do different things with his wedges. Always a little bit tinkery. I mean, the thing about Rory is he's so talented that he can hit every shot. And there are times when, when he was probably at his best, it was when he hadn't even admitted this. He had nothing but draws. He was sticking to the sort of mechanic. So I'm sure there are people out there, the data boys, who would say, I think probably accurately, like, in a lot of ways, you're bringing in more mistakes with, shaping the ball in both directions. Like it can, help you get to some pins, but in terms of consistency, like you probably ought to have a shot that you stick to a shot cone and you trust it over and over again. And the rare times that you miss, like that's okay. But for the most part, you're playing the percentages like you're playing blackjack. And I think that's probably a fair description of Rory, is that he always is a little bit tinkery.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I see him almost as right in between these two.
I would say mechanic.
I was going to say, I think when he
artist.
skews mechanic, when he goes to the mechanic side, he's better. Like, and you can see it some with when he was struggling with his wedges. It's like it looked very mechanical when he was, hitting the ball to 25 feet from 80 yards. It was really frustrating. And then, he kind of fixed the glitch a little bit, but Rory doesn't feel quite as artistic to me. Definitely not as much as Scheffler, but I would probably place him on the mechanic side.
I think younger Rory was.
It's been a running bit though for years of he's soft conditions only, right? I mean that to me screams mechanic, right? I don't see him like when the conditions get harder and firmer and tougher. I'm not like, oh, here comes Rory. Like I think he feels like just cut and dry, like born to be able to compete in PGA Tour events more than I feel like when the going gets tough, he's the guy to go to.
I think Rory might be the
recent
team principal.
I think his recent U.S. Open record would go against that, though. Like he's contended in a bunch of U.S. Opens. He hasn't won, but like Torrey was really tough. Brookline was tough. Like those are all times when it was hard, and he still kind of figured it out. So maybe that's just talent. But I think that when I think artist is like he sees a back right pin and he's like, all right, I can hit a sick fade to this pin, not a sick fade, but like a gentle fade. Instead of basically saying like, all right, I'm just going to hit this in the middle of the green. And, we saw that at Bay Hill. He was like, all right, I'm going to hit a big swooping draw to this pin when he didn't actually have to. If he just hits in the middle of the green there, he's probably in a playoff.
Yeah. I don't know. I almost feel like Rory's neither.
I think Spieth is neither, for sure.
Please say more, TC.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Spieth is both, right? Spieth's like
I'd say Spieth's
magician.
Sure.
He's like an industrial.
No, he's like that architect. Guy, Alexander Calder. He's building like
exactly.
He's building like physical artwork, like mobiles or whatever. The things that are like balanced.
To me, artist is like somebody you can throw him in any kind of situation, and they're going to figure out a way to get the golf ball in the hole. Like I think back on watching Scottie hitting shots out of the desert at Waste Management and draw hook sand wedges and throw them anywhere, and he's like going to find a way. Spieth is very much the same way. You put Spieth in the harder you put, harder a spot you put Spieth in, the more he thinks he's going to make it from like 220 away. Whereas like I don't get the same feeling when Rory gets put behind the 8 ball. Like it just seems to kind of add up to what the expected score might be for Rory, whereas Spieth is like middle of fairway, he might make 5, and from the trees, he might make 3 is kind of that's how I would define an artist. But I think
I agree with you, Solly. I feel like Rory, when he gets off schedule, off rhythm, what happens? He misses the cut, right? Like but when he's locked in off the tee, it looks so easy for him. Yeah. And so I think that's a little bit more mechanical than it is artistic.
What would you describe course record holder Tom Hoagie as?
Do we need to factor inflation into this course record?
I was trying to make a finance joke. I couldn't come up with any Bitcoin stuff. I slide there.
I saw that earlier. It said the I think this was after, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the guys had finished up, but it was like 50 to 70 shots lower than the next closest day ever here. Or third. The next closest third round, and it was the first time that 18s played under par since like 1996 or something.
Which I know makes your blood boil, TC. I know you hate that.
Well, no, we need
2
to get
hours without a ball in the water on 17 too.
Yeah, we need to get Cantlay's team in there to build a new tee box up there on 18 up by the hospitality tents.
It does seem like they picked all the easy pin, maybe too many easy pins for one round. I go to like over 72 holes. It doesn't really matter how much you mix in, the easy pins versus the hard pins, but it was kind of just like, it's easy on 17. It's easy on 18. Oh, that's the easiest pin on 16 too. 14 was kind of a tough pin, but like it just felt like, 12 was super accessible with the tee up and all that. It's like, shouldn't have been a surprise to them that the scores were as low as they were. Maybe that's what they wanted. And it was set up for that and for a reason, but it was weird to go for the tournament to switch that much. From the conditions switched overnight and the setup got a lot easier. But I don't know, kind of made for a fun, entertaining day. There was a very real buzz out there today.
But you guys were talking about last night. Wasn't that a bit of a pace of play thing?
Pace of play was quicker today.
Yeah, to make sure that these guys the pins weren't super hard because they need to get it in before, they got guys finishing the second round. They got to get them back out.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the nicest weather days of the year so far. Like it was pristine out there. And there was solid, like you said, there was a buzz, there was an energy out there, especially on the back 9, but even on the front 9 on holes like 4 and 9. It was, I had a great day out there watching golf. It was awesome.
Well, Solly, listen, 30 minutes in.
Sure.
What was your best thing you saw today on site?
Best thing I saw today was we followed the Cam Young, Jordan Spieth, Max Homa group for their front 9, the back 9. And so like kind of how it worked was, you get out there, people are getting out there ready to see some golf, and around 10:30 is when the afternoon tee time started, or the round 3 tee time started, and there wasn't much golf going on. So everyone darted to that back 9. I mean, normally you kind of spread out a little bit more, but it was just like 10, 15 rows deep of people following just this 3-ball. So we had to kind of, TPC Sawgrass works out really well for that. You can get up on top of hills and you can still see a lot of shots, and it worked out great. But the ball striking exhibition that Cameron Young put on for like a 8-hole stretch was just, it was, I don't want to say unlike anything I'd seen, but maybe unlike anything I'd seen in person in terms of just supreme premium ball striking on repeat. He hits 11, he birdies 10, hits 11 and 2 to the middle of the green, 2 putts birdie very easily. Almost aces 12 with driver. The wind was in at that point. I watched Hideki drive it to the front, couldn't get there. Sung Jae drive to the front, couldn't get there. And Cam Young steps up, hits it on the green, like spins it and holds the green. 2 putts birdie there, flips over, hits this shot on 14. He drives it in the bunker, like through the fairway. He absolutely bombed one through the fairway, slightly left. He's got to hook a wedge around the trees to a back left pin. And I'm watching this happen. It doesn't look possible. And I'm watching this thing just hook in, land on the green with left spin. It looked like a tiger shot landing on the green with this added layer of left spin, gets all the way back to the back left pin, steps up on 15T. I looked this up. He had a 170-foot apex with a 3-wood off of 15T. just total moonshot. I mean, the whole crowd was just murmuring and buzzing over this shot. I did not understand why. Maybe he skied it, but it went really far.
I had trouble getting my 9-iron above like 100 feet.
It was so high. I've watched a lot of golf, and I don't know if I've ever seen a golf shot go that high. And I this is going to sound like a dramatic overreaction, and I don't think I can already predict I'm not going to fully be able to make this point, but watching Cam Young today made me think and realize that why the PGA Tour is going to win this, or that the PGA Tour is going to win this thing. Cam Young was super close to signing with LIV, maybe the closest to signing with LIV. At the last second, was kind of pulled back in by a lot of influence in the Delaware meeting, as I understand it. And like, dude, to be able to watch that talent and appreciate it next to all of the other most talented guys in golf was like, dude, that would be such a waste if this was happening on the CW. Like, this would not make sense for somebody that's hitting a ball to the moon to be playing on like the Ironheads or whatever the team names are over there. Like, it was just like, holy shit, this is what like competitive golf means. Like, I need to be able to go out and watch the best players in the world like clearly separate themselves from other guys and appreciate that. And that was my best thing I saw today, Neil.
So Cam Young won you over today.
I've watched him play in person, and I've greatly enjoyed the ball striking aspect. I'd like to see him figure the putting out a little bit more at the President's Cup. You know, his putting was a little bit suspect. He's been really close to winning, but just doesn't seem to make enough putts to be able to win. You know, the winners, you know, the phrase, the winners come from the best putters of the best ball strikers. He's there with the hitting the golf ball, man. It was all there. I know he kind of faded a little bit when he flipped over to the other side, but dude, I don't see like a level like that with a lot of guys we watch out there.
Dude, it was the same thing. I watched him on the other side. I watched him on the front nine, and same kind of thing with some of the shots off the tee, some of the lines that he's taking. I mean, shit, the line he took on 18T, everybody was like audibly, holy shit. Like, that was radically different than even Max and Spieth, like two of the other best ball strikers in the world. I mean, it's weird. He even out of the bunker, he takes the same pause at the top on a bunker shot. It's like really disconcerting. It's so impressive. I would say best thing I saw today was the ball don't lie situation with Adam Svensson after the TIO debacle this morning. He hit it right of 9 on top of a generator on 9. Got one of the most egregious TIO. We must have TIO reform. We need to have TIO reform, but Svensson was the only guy in the top 40 to shoot over par today.
TC, I really appreciate you picking up this TIO, case with me. Ever since Brendan Steele did it at Sony 2 years ago, it's egregious that these guys get these clean drop, line of sight drops. It is a problem. And I took a lot of heat for, saying that about Scheffler last year at the Masters when he got a drop from the scoreboard. Like, yeah, that's not a temporary immovable object, the scoreboard. And then all people, oh no, they take those down. I don't care. Look at that thing. I mean, it's a brick shithouse. Like,
how do you reform it? Let's get to the solution. How do you reform it?
I think you reform it. You either hit the shot, play the ball as it lies, as always, or you get a drop. If you need a drop, you can get the line of sight drop, but you got to take a 1-stroke penalty. Because if you're hitting it into
you shouldn't have fucking hit it there.
If you hit it into a hospitality tent and you don't have, it's like when you get up against an out of bounds fence and you don't have a lie and you want to take a stroke, that's fine. You shouldn't have hit it there. I just don't think there's any reason these guys should get a free drop from that. There should be some type of penalty, and it could be the line of sight. Take it back 100 yards. Take it way over like Svensson did today. He got a perfect drop next to the cart path. Cool. If you want to take that drop, but if you're on top of a generator, come on, man. That's ridiculous.
Like, it's crazy when you're dropping 100 yards away from where you were. Like, make it a extra shitty spot.
That's the answer, I think.
That's another solution. But then you have to have a spot to drop it. There's so many hospitality tents. It's like, what is everybody? You're going to go drop on the left side of the fairway now? Like, I don't know about that.
You should have to take a shot. Take a shot or a shot. You got to take either a 1-stroke penalty or you have to take a shot from, like, you have to go up in the hospitality tent and take a shot. Also, KVB, people are calling you Ken Bone in the comments.
Wow, that's tough. I mean, this
I
is an
think it's a
NLU
sweater.
sweater. I thought it was very
That's so good.
attractive, but that's
KV's an undecided voter on TIO. He's trying to make up his mind. That's why he's here for this debate. So he's undecided.
I think you should support my movement to have a tournament with no drops. Like everything is just.
I'm so on board with that. That's awesome. Now, realistically, what legislation can we get passed? I think keep it all the same, but like if you hit it offline and the course shouldn't play easier for the pros. Yeah. Right, for a tournament. And like if you get the bounce off that, if you still want to do the backboarding stuff, that's great, man. Like go for it. And it bounces off, like, yeah, you're back in play, you're in a good spot. But like if you end up in a shitty position because of a hospitality tent, I don't care if it's temporary. You should have to take a penalty if you want to get a drop.
Here's the reality of it, though, that in theory, I agree with that. But the reality is there's a sponsorship dollar aspect of golf, and the sponsorship / dollar aspect of golf means people want to get close to the action, which means the hospitality tents are going to get close to the golf holes, and punishing people that hit it into that spot it's not as easy as like there's a shitload of like ball don't lie / this doesn't feel fair / what should happen in golf, and like the closer you put like hospitality to the action, the more that's going to happen.
But like, I think it would be like tremendous. A bad drop. Tremendous drama if these guys started trying to hit flop shots over the hospitality tents. Like they can still play the ball as it lies. It doesn't mean you don't have to take the drop.
I'm just telling you that's fantasy world, because like there's insurance when it comes to golf, and there's danger with like, hey, hit it over this group of people that are right there. Like that's not something that that Travelers is going to want to be insured.
What about this?
I mean,
what about
guys
this?
are already hitting it in the crowd every round. I mean, that's the beauty of golf. You're always playing from the spectators. Like I kind of push back on that. Like people, like look at Spieth. He made the cut because he hit a guy in the knee. Like they're not worried about that guy. What, they're just worried about the high rollers in the hospitality tents? I think that's a cop out.
I guess that guy was a 25-year Marine. So, you know, not only served his country, but he also served Spieth. I will say, I think one other solution could be like a really ratty, shitty, worn out piece of artificial turf you put on every hole, and it can move around to where these guys need to hit it from. And, you know, you basically bring this big mat over, and the guy has to put the ball on the mat and hit the shot from the mat. And it's like a bare, it's like a half shot penalty. Like, all right, cool. You got to hit one off this bare piece of artificial turf for your next flop shot or whatever.
Like, what if it's on the roof of a car or something? Like that would go into that route?
No, I'm saying like you do get relief, but you have to then take relief. It's basically like creating that shitty lie, or the muff, as you know, Zinger would call it.
I'll come back to hitting flop shots over hospitality is just straight up never going to happen.
But are you cool?
The answer is the bad drop zones. The RNA does this. They put a white circle there, and it is like the thick shit. And it's like, all right, dude, if you want to bail out into the hospitality, here is where you're going to be dropping, and you need to evaluate that into your decision. That's your answer, right? The PGA Tour just straight up does not do that. They do not put drop zones near any hospitality to make you like even think about that kind of decision.
But you're on board with us in TIO reform.
In general, yes. It's just the way golf rules like have to be written. It's kind of it's complicated, right? There's just a shitload of spots where it's going to feel wrong that this has to happen, but there's also reasons why you need to get relief from these kind of spots. Like some of them are, again, if you put up a tower, like a shot length thing within the line of play that, you know, they need to be able to gun all the yardages, and they put a scoreboard right here near the line of play. So people that are watching the golf need to see the scoreboard. It's just not as simple as like that, you know,
I don't know,
that's
man.
there, play around it.
I haven't been to many tournaments where the scoreboard is in play. Like, I just don't think that you usually got to hit a bad one to get into a spot like that. And I just think a free drop is bullshit. I mean, when Ron that hit in the FEMA tents at Riviera? Like, that was outrageous. Like, right? TC, I was so proud of you for riding for TIO reform.
Appreciate
that.
Like,
I'm glad to have some a coalition of the willing here.
Whereas Solly's like fucking Kristen Cinema or Lisa Murkowski or something. We don't know which side he's on.
We don't know what you're doing, Solly. Are you on board? Are you not on board?
I'm giving you a real
special interest.
In fantasy world. They want to see him hitting flop shots out of
the lobbyists. The lobbyists have gotten to him. We can't trust them.
The lobbyists are up in the hospitality tents.
I'm up in the hospitality. I'm looking out for myself here. It's dangerous up in the hospitality, okay? Come on. All right, KVV, we're going to let you go.
We got to
talk about Minwoo Lee. How TIO got in over Minwoo Lee. I will never forgive you for, TC. That's supposed to be your guy. I'm putting that
squarely on you. It's the best thing I saw all day. The ball don't lie. Also, Neil, you need to shave your mustache into the Minwoo Lee, villain mustache. That'd be sick.
He's got a great look going. I love his sunglasses. When he took his hat off on 18, great mullet flow going. It was a really, really strong aesthetic that he's putting out there. And honestly, I was pretty impressed. He brought it today. He didn't fade. He charged and then stuck around and had a great finish to the round. So somebody needs to probably test his 2-iron. I mean, what a missile launcher that thing is on 12 and on 18, hitting that draw that's running for 40 yards. That was incredible. But I was impressed.
Again, I'm taking the ball here. KVV, we got to let you go. We held you for longer than we were planning for. KVV, thank you very much. Enjoy your Saturday night. We'll let you go. Second, thanks, I got to give a shout out to our friends at Rhoback. TC is rocking. I was not allowed to wear Rhoback today. My wife stopped me on the way out. She said, you cannot wear this every single day. They are back for another year with us. The fit, the feel, the quality, it's all perfect. I should have been out there taking pictures of all of the dog logos and all of the stripes I saw on the back of people's shirts out there. I'm sure you saw the same thing today, TC. The Rhobacks are everywhere. Excuse me. I'm getting excited about these. The performance polos fit way better than typical boxy polos. The collar never loses its shape. The Q-zips are perfect. I saw a lot of the herringbone ones out there today. I saw the green one that I love to wear out there as well today. They're so comfortable. They're perfect for a spring day like today. They're not too hot, not too cool. And then, of course, the hoodies, the one that TC is rocking. Why don't you put them up on the full screen there, Cody? We got to be able to see exactly what TC's got going on. They're stretchy. They're so comfortable. And if you see us out on the golf course, you'll probably see us in a Rhoback hoodie. And you can use code NLU at rhoback.com for a generous 20% off your first order through the end of the week. That's RHOBACK.com, 20% off polos, Q-zips, hoodies, and tees with code NLU. Rhoback.com. We appreciate their support.
Saw a lot of print polos out there today. A lot of Rhoback print polos out there.
I saw a lot of, hey, I got that shirt. Hey, I got that shirt.
You guys give him the nod? You give him the Rhoback nod?
Of course. Of course.
I love it.
Minwoo Lee is 2 shots back, I believe. My scoreboard is not refreshing. Do I have that right? 2 shots back going into it. Can I give you guys a little tease, a little hint at what his ball speeds were with driver today? Did you see this out there?
I did not.
It was, as I'm scrolling the timeline, 189.2, 190.9, 190.3, 192.2, 192.3, 191.7, 192.3, 189.4, 193.2. That's the driver ball speed for Minwoo Lee. I got to admit, I did not know he moved it like that.
That's wild. He's Minwoo's only 24. He's been doing it a while, and he's got a couple big dick wins too. Victoria Open, and then the 2021 Aberdeen Scottish Open, which was at pretty good playoff over Thomas Dietrich and Matt Fitzpatrick there. But no, I mean, it's probably the most aesthetically pleasing swing I've ever seen. Kind of wondering, like, hey, how is this guy not one more? And I think it's just a late bloomer a little bit, right? Like, he's been doing it a while. T14 at the Masters last year, made the cut in 3 of the 4 majors last year. Like, he's been flashing some form. I don't know. It's cool to see a couple Aussies up there, Cam Davis and Minwoo. That's got to make Cam feel kind of, oh man, like my Aussie countrymen are usurping me here, and while I can't defend my own title.
Looking at Minwoo's profile here, it is a lot of hot and cold, like some extremely good rounds, and then also some extremely bad rounds. Like shoot at the BMW PGA, shot 70 when everyone else was shooting absolutely astronomical scores. Then he turns around and shoots 76 while the golf course is easy. Like you look at like the top players, they just hover around that average line and then have the the rounds that jump way up high. Like Minwoo is like, he's crypto, he is volatile, he is all over the place. So I don't know what that means for him for the rest of this tournament. He shot 79 in round 2 at the Arnold Palmer last week, shot 75 in round 1, and then turns around and is in second place for the Players Championship the next week. Like I don't know what to expect from him.
So let me press you, Solly. Are you buying or selling Minwoo? Are you buying that coin tomorrow if he's crypto?
Based on that, I think I'm selling. I don't love that lasting. He was playing with extreme confidence today. Watching that swing he took off 14 was like, oh, this dude is out there to go get it. But showing up the next day is a different question. On Sunday, final group, Scottie Scheffler, twosomes. I'm going to take Scottie with the 2-shot lead over Minwoo Lee.
Yeah, I would say at points, it was him. I think who else he was playing with. I think Bezadenhout and Will Gordon, maybe. And there was not a whole lot of people watching that group. There were maybe 5 or 6 people following along with that group at points during the front 9. So it's going to be a different show tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
Solly, you nailed it though with the way he was swinging the club. Actually, something Azinger brought up on the telecast. He like truly freed up, letting it fly. 12, 14, 18. Those swings he made, 2 of them with the 2-iron it's like fearless. So that is definitely encouraging, but also, like you said, I think is a good point. Like you show up tomorrow and you might not feel the same way. Does that continue in the final group? We'll see.
Are we concerned about this leaderboard as a whole? Well, what's the reaction through 3 rounds? We were kind of expecting, through 2 rounds, it's kind of like, okay, this tournament takes a little while to get going, but through 3 rounds, what's the reaction to what we see up there? We have Tommy Fleetwood sitting in T4. I'm just going to get TC's down the leaderboard out of the way. Aaron Rai, T4, Chad Ramey, T4, Christian Bezadenhout as well, and then Sung Jae, David Lingmerth, which we'll talk about, and Tom Hoagie at T8. But is it going to take, at the end of 4 rounds, is the cream going to have risen in time?
You're skipping Cam Davis.
We already mentioned him.
I know, but he's 4 back. Scottie went out and shot 65 today. And I think we'd be talking about it a little bit differently if, lead it was like at 10 or 12, but 14 that's kind of pushing a lot of the really good stuff down. So yeah, it's been a bad board all week.
I think it's an interesting board. It sums up how I feel when I try to make picks for this tournament. You got no clue.
Sucks.
You just got no clue who's going to play well. And 2 of the horses, Collin and Viktor, just decided they were going to opt out and unsubscribe today, which we can talk about in a second. And then you have, which I'm encouraged by, you've got Jason Day and you've got Ricky, almost like a little bit of nostalgia of like, oh, 2 guys that have won here. They played pretty well. I would say, I think 5 under is probably too far back with Scottie at 13, but there's some familiar old names on the leaderboard. You've got a bunch of random guys and you've got 1 horse at the top. So I don't know. I think on a normal week, I'd be like, this is kind of a crappy leaderboard, but I think it kind of fits here because it's not, it's how I feel trying to make a pick for this tournament every year. It's just really hard. You just never know.
How far back is too far back?
Well, I think 5 is
in the lead.
I think 5 is definitely. I don't think Scottie's going backwards, and I think if you're at 5, that's a tough gap tomorrow to close with it. Like you said with the windy app, TC. If it's blowing out there, I don't think anybody's shooting, a Hoj coin course record tomorrow.
Yeah, I think. All right. Do you guys want to apologize to Tommy and me?
No, because it's a Saturday. I want to see what happens tomorrow, and I don't have a ton of confidence.
All right, 65 for Tommy today. Aaron Rai, nice round. He had a 65 as well. Chad Ramey sticking around, 75 yesterday. Chad Ramey.
A ton of. I was gonna actually maybe ask you guys to apologize to Chad Ramey. I think you guys were pretty hard on the last 2 nights.
No, I said if I'm Chad Ramey, I'm sitting here however many strokes back he was, and said the only thing that happens, I made a quad when I made 2 pretty darn good swings, just landed the ball in the wrong spot. Like I think we were kind of. When he was at the top of the leaderboard, it's like, yeah, okay, we're kind of rooting for him to come back a little bit. But now I want him to keep rising. I want him to have a great day tomorrow.
TC, what you said night 1, you said the odds were 150 to 1 for you to bet on Ramey to win. What do they have to be now?
Oh, that's a good question there.
Probably right around the same.
I'd say 100 to 1. I would take.
I gotta think his odds got a little better after
he's 80 to 1.
Yeah.
80-1.
Yeah. I mean, Chad Ramey and Matt Wolff look very similar to me. Just like their facial features, their sponsorships, all of it. I think the other thing is Ramey had to play 17 when it was absolutely howling and firm as hell.
Yeah.
Some of those guys in the early late wave got absolutely crowned.
Cody, we pull that graphic up that Golf Channel threw up Friday, tweeted of where Chad Ramey's ball landed in his second round versus I forget whose ball it was that backed up. Was that Dylan Wu or Brandon Wu? To show the Saturday result of the difference in the firmness of the rain coming overnight. There was a crowning, and Chad definitely got the raw into the draw there.
Totally.
That's a great graphic, by the way. That is like telling the story of how conditions change a lot more than just saying it on repeat. I'm impressed with some of the graphics they've thrown together this week.
Very, very cool that this stuff's possible. And then they continue to hold out on us.
Come on, we're staying positive here, TC. Come on.
Well, it's almost like they frame it as like, hey, look, we're testing some new stuff out. But that's BS because it's your biggest event of the year. So this wouldn't be the place to test things out. Like you'd probably want to test out new features at the Honda. So that's why it always baffles me when they roll out this new tech, like the wind thing, Solid, that you were talking about, which is a fantastic graphic that should be like up every time somebody's playing 17, seeing where the wind's going. But this is the only place we do it. And it's like, oh, no, look, yeah, no, we're just doing some testing. It's like, I don't know. Maybe you're just like holding back on me, man.
But even like some stuff, like week to week, we can't even get a regular just wind gauge on certain important holes. Like we're backsliding some weeks. Like the spread between a good week and a regular week is getting wider and wider and wider on Golf Channel and NBC. So
it's also like these details mean so little when it comes to when your commercial load is what it is on a week-to-week basis. Like that's 99% of the problem, right?
Yes.
It's the rest is just kind of like picking nits, which I'm definitely down to do with UTC. But
so guys, I didn't get an answer from you guys on how far back is too far back.
I think 7 under is definitely too far back, and 8 under is probably too far back. I don't think anybody at 8 under can win.
I think the only guy at 8 under that can win is Sungjae.
Yeah.
I mean, Sungjae shot 64 today. Otherwise, I think it's probably the guys at 9. Christian Bezuidenhout, really impressed with him today. 69 today, hung right in. But yeah, I mean, Sungjae is kind of the dog that I'm looking at of like, all right, if it's not Minwoo, Cam Davis, Fleetwood, it's Sungjae.
Which it still would require, like, at minimum, the second best player in the world to do a lot of backtracking, which is
I feel like Scottie hit some weird, like some funky shots on the back 9 today, though. He's not making the 10-footers he normally, like he made the putt on 18 there, right? But he didn't make the putt. Like he missed a few, or on 17. Like he missed the putt on 17. Yeah.
But see, I almost feel like that. Then you got to watch out for those falling tomorrow, right? Yeah. He goes. Yeah. It's like that, it's going to balance out a little bit. Like, I don't think there's any way he finishes less than 16 under. It's kind of like, let's say 16 with the wind, let's call it 18 under. If he goes out and shoots 68, like who can get to 18? I think 9 unders is your kind of as far down the leaderboard as you can go with how far back is too far back. So
I'm a little bit bummed that nobody else, like Hoagie shot 62 today. I'm a little bit bummed that none of the big dogs shot 63, 64. Like, kind of brought it today. A Spieth, a Max, a Morikawa. Is it time to talk about Morikawa? That was dog shit.
Can I throw a little love in for my guy David Lingmerth?
Yeah, I think he was probably the story of the day.
God, I'd love to talk about Lingmerth. I can't tell you how hard I was rooting for him.
Me too.
It's so much fun to watch. The guy's coming off the Korn Ferry Tour, has history here, home game models. Solly, I'll let you take it away. I know this is your guy.
I've probably said this on multiple shows since since the fall, really. But we've gotten to know David and his family through the last couple of years here. My wife is good friends with his wife, and the first time we had dinner with him was 2018 or so, and he was coming off an elbow injury, and it was just kind of like you were talking to a player that just kind of felt like a former player at that point in terms of how he talked about golf and how he talked about losing his confidence and how I was just kind of like, man, as a short hitter battling injuries and your swing, like your road back to this seems really, really, really windy and really difficult. And I don't know if there's not that many guys that it all comes back for that fit that profile. And following him week to week and following, his battle and like playing with him a few times has been just kind of, it's just the story of the grind of a journeyman golfer. And now 10 years after he finished runner up to Tiger in 2013, he's back in the mix here in Ponte Vedra. He's a local guy in Ponte Vedra. He is hitting the ball. He averages 52 yards less off the tee than Rory does. 52 yards on average. Like that's not picking top drives out of that. That's the average. He's bottom 5 on the PGA Tour in driving distance. And he's not even like that accurate off the tee at times. He's just that gritty and grindy. And a quick story back to, he had missed 3 cuts in a row going into Pebble Beach. And I got invited to go out and play Cypress Point. And I didn't know I was supposed to fill the foursome. And so the last minute, the guy's kind of like, who are you bringing? And I was like, oh, I don't have anyone. So I called David and I was like, hey, do you want to come play? And he's like, I got a practice round scheduled with Jonas, but let me call Jonas and see if I can bail on that because I really want to, kind of play Cypress and have a fun day. He does it. He comes out and plays, and he was just like being like smile as wide as possible for somebody that gets to play as much golf as you want for him to experience that place and have the reaction that he had to playing that golf course. And he came home, and I think he told his wife who relayed the message to us, like he really needed that day to remind him like why he loves golf or why golf is, why he got into golf. And since then he's made 3 cuts in a row coming into this, and now having this, kind of bounce back and resurgent experience this week has just been really freaking cool to see somebody on the grind at that level. So I'm so pumped for him, and I hope he closes something out with it. Maybe a top 5 tomorrow would be a great, great achievement.
God, that's sick. That's an awesome story. Solly taking credit for Lingmerth's good play.
For sure.
All of it is awesome. It makes me so
Incredible.
happy. I want to call out 2 things with Lingmerth.
He shot 6 under on the front 9 at Cypress. I think that is more of what helped than me, as maybe probably the point of the story that I should have told.
What did he shoot on the back 9?
I think he shot even on the back 9, but
Okay.
it was more about a lot more than golf on that walk on the back 9. I think I saw
feel like
Don at one point out there.
Watching him today, you nailed it, Solly. Like the mental strength it takes to just be 50 yards behind everybody and plod your way around a course. I think a credit to TPC. It allows a guy like that to be in the right spots and perform and still compete. But I think his lag putting really stuck out to me. I felt like every time they showed him, he had a long putt on 8. I remember one. He had one on 16, and he's got this funky putting form going on. He's got the claw on the left hand, kind of not even a broomstick. It's almost like a vacuum length. I don't know what he's it's working though. It's kind of like, it's up to like his below his
Dyson.
chest.
He's got the Dyson.
He's got the Dyson thing going on. I just think it's great though to see him. He did a really good job on the lag putting of giving himself stress-free pars, which to me, when I play golf, always keeps a round going. It's like if you're not just grinding over 6-foot par putts, all day, it really frees you up when you do have a chance to make a birdie putt. You're not wasting it on a 8 to 10 footer for par. So the lag putting really stuck out to me, and I wanted to call that out just because the putting stroke is so unorthodox.
KVV sending in some great notes in the private chat here that David would when the players would come to town when he wasn't in the field. Can you pull that back up, Cody? He was he would not he said it was hard when the players would come to town every year and he wasn't in the field because he was living inside the gates of TPC. And he said he went to a concert at the Players one year but couldn't bring himself to attend the tournament any of those years. Said it felt pretty damn good to be back.
He went to the Chainsmokers concert.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
No, David, I mean, it's just, he's a second shot golf course savant. Like he's won it at Muirfield, and he's played well here multiple times now. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say about, and this is the last thing for Lingmerth, is other than Max, and I would love it if you guys had another guy, but who else can lose their game, kind of be in the wilderness, and then come back and almost have a better second act? Like I think of Max with that, and I think of now Lingmerth, because I know maybe this isn't as good. I know he won before on his first time around, but I just find it really I get really excited when a guy comes back, after having to grind on the mini tour, on the Korn Ferry Tour and makes a comeback. It's just, there's so much competition coming up from college. There's so many good guys down on the Korn Ferry Tour. It's just really, really impressive to see guys do that.
We talked about one of them, Ben Griffin.
Yeah, fair enough.
Really
Well, I
took
should have
the
known
game.
that. They've told me about it.
Team Rose came out and shit himself for a few years and worked his way back up. Kuchar,
to your question though, like whoever comes back with a better second act, that's an interesting question. Like,
and Max is really the
Max
only
comes
guy
to
that I
mind.
can point to that has done that after like a really storied amateur career, and then high hopes when he turned pro initially. And I guess I'm thinking like, God, I would love to see Lingmerth come back and get like, really. I don't know if it would be better. It would be hard for him to,
I
win
mean,
Memorial or
Cantlay,
something, but
Cantlay has kind of done that. I know it was more injury related, but it was also injury related for David as well.
yeah.
Right?
And
I guess
injuries,
that is a difference with Max. It is an injury instead of like the driver yips or just losing it. But then credit to Max. That's awesome.
Neil, somebody's saying in the comments, Neil, this is where you take credit for Max's rise by having him unstrapped.
Hey, we took him back home.
look at that.
We took him back home to where he grew up. I think, listen, that some people wonder maybe he got back in touch with the game.
It was cool. Max is teeing off on 15, and there's a couple in front of us, and the wife turns to her husband and was like, as Max is getting ready to hit, she goes, "Is this that guy you like?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he gets his phone out, getting ready to record Max. I was like, dude, that's the effect of all of the freaking media you've done over the last 4 or 5 years to, promote the game of golf, promote yourself, and like professional golfers need to be doing more of like what you're doing. But it was kind of cool to see like that happen right in front of me. Morikawa, are we ready to do that?
Fire it up.
Yeah. It's horrible.
John Legend.
I can't make sense of it. We've been calling him the dome golfer, yet this was dome conditions today, and he went backwards. He shot even par, but that was like 3 over par today. Like legitimately, I think the scoring average today was close to 60. It was 69.5. So he basically shot 2.5 over par in relation to the field when it was looking like that was his time to go out and get it, especially with the names that were in front of him on the leaderboard. And I don't really have an answer to that. It's hard to bag on a guy that's won the events that he's won at this stage of a young career, but I never, ever, ever know what to expect from Morikawa.
It's weird, right? It was almost like conditions were too easy or something today. And he lost strokes off the field or off the tee. He lost strokes around the green. He lost strokes putting. And he hit like 70, he hit 10 of 14 fairways. It's not like he was spraying it all over the yard. He's just off. And he only hit 10 of 18 greens in reg. I don't get it, man. I don't get how a guy can be knocking down pins. And then he looked hopeless on some of those putts. The irons looked off. It's a weird deal.
It was one of those watching from home. They didn't show much because obviously he kind of got the drop from coverage. I was like, what's going on? You just wonder. It's like, why are you not, what happened to Morikawa? Like you turn it on the back nine and he's just kind of on autopilot a little bit.
Mark Craven said Morikawa needs Solly to take him out golfing. I'm in on that. I think that's probably what he needs at this point. I'm in on that.
Hovland's another guy. Same thing. Like,
dude, you want to know what like the worst sign is? But you mentioned Hovland and Morikawa earlier. One of you guys did. I forget who did. And I was like, oh, dude, I like legitimately forgot about Hovland today. I did not even think about the fact that he shot 2 under today, but that's going backwards today when everyone else was racing past him.
Yeah. I feel like Hovland, there's something weird. I was talking to KVV about this earlier. We were just sitting there kind of rehashing the day. And Hovland feels like he just misses big too much. Like he just weird big misses with the irons, and then I'm sure the chipping thing compounds that. The putter was cold as hell today. He lost like
second to last on the field in putting today, only to Zalatoris.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just he's another guy. I just don't really understand his game.
TC, I would agree with that. I think he misses big and then doesn't really have the tools to get out of trouble, right? Which is kind of where Scheffler separates from him. I think that's a really good perspective on that. I will say though, like Scheffler, I think that I like watching Viktor play. I like the way he kind of gets the club through the zone. He
love
goes
his
at
swing.
the ball.
Yeah.
I like the way he goes. I like watching him play golf. Like I root for him. I want him to break through. It just
Totally.
seems like he gets himself, and I can relate. He gets himself into mega bonus territory and kind of, I don't know. He seems to maybe worry about those misses. And then, maybe the chipping thing is like, oh, well, I can't, I'm not scrambling well. So he just doesn't really have a get out of jail free card like some of these guys with the short game do.
I thought the Ben Griffin walk and talk was a step up for NBC. That was the best one they've done of those. It was Ben Griffin was really engaging. They kind of reverted back to talking about specifics around golf. I think they probably shoehorned it in a little too tight. He was kind of dropped off
they did
on 11. So he was, in the final group, and he was not having a good day to that point. I think he was 1 over at that point. He drives it in the right trees, and he just talks a lot about what he's going to do. Am I going to lay up on the right? Am I going to lay up on the left? Actually, I have a great line here. I'm probably going to be sending it. They'd still take the AirPods out for the player caddy convo and hitting the shot, which I don't understand, but that was a step up in how they've done it in the past in terms of, he was switched on. Great nugget. He said, as he's walking up to his eagle putt from the front of the green, he's like, I actually watched PGA Tour live earlier. I watched Max Homa and Cameron Young have a putt from down here. I know it goes a little bit to the left. Like that was a great little nugget. It was more in line with what we've seen out of CBS than the previous NBC goes. So wanted to note that one.
A couple of the rounds I want to call out. Taylor Montgomery shot 66 today. I think this is a great golf course for him. And, if he continues to play well into next season, I think he's a guy to look for of like dark horse candidate. Neil, I know a couple guys you're kind of riding for, respecting a little bit. These like late career renaissance guys that could have gone to live, like a Jason Day or a Justin Rose, or even a Ricky, right? They're all three of those guys are at T14 right now.
I've been thinking a lot about that, TC. I wonder if the seismic shifts in golf have almost gotten those guys off of autopilot a little bit of like, hey, they probably got offered some money and then they really did some reflecting and said, I don't know if I want to do that, but they weren't doing a whole lot on the PGA Tour. Some guys leave. All of a sudden, these guys get reinvigorated. They kind of get back at it. Like, I'm very interested in Jason Day. He's back on the first page of the leaderboard like every week. And he's, been just non-existent for the past 4 years. And before that, today I was looking up some of his career. It's like, man, that guy was such a stud. And I wonder, what'd you say?
So good. Oh my God.
He was so good. And he's one of like the best putters out there. And he has the complete game. Like he's won at the Players. He's just won a bunch of different venues and he just disappeared. And it's like, oh, is it life? Is he not like golf? Like, I'm just curious. And I wonder, I think he and Ricky are kind of a good, they're both kind of making a resurgence here. And it's good to see. I like that. And credit to Justin Rose too. Like he wins at Pebble and he seems to be playing really good golf. And it's kind of fun to see those old names that now as I get older, guys that have been around like since the beginning of NLU, guys we were talking about a ton in 2014 and 2015, then didn't talk about them at all from 2019 till today. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, great. These guys are back in the mix. This is awesome.
Day's been a butcher off the tee this week. He's 70th in the field or 69th in the field off the tee. Otherwise, he's first around the green. He's hitting his irons really well. Putting's been decent, not great, but I feel like he's got a little bit of a chance to kind of lament this one as one that got away. He shot 73
I agree.
days
He didn't really bring it today. I kind of expected him to make a charge. I kind of picked him as a dark horse this week, but his game seems consistent. Like it's not sometimes you expect like, oh, he's going to show up at Torrey and then disappear again, but he's kind of, stuck around and been on the leaderboard the last 2 months.
Man, his 2015 was so sick. 5 wins plus 2.52 in strokes gained for the year. And now he's back above 2 for the year in strokes gained. Like he is half a shot off his peak right now. I mean, it doesn't really quite have the finishes as much as it has been wildly consistent week to week. I'm saying he hasn't had the top 5 finishes. He's got T10, T9, solo 5th, T7, T18 in his last 5 starts on top of 4 other top 25s in the fall last year before we flipped over to 2023. It's been really, really, really good.
Speaking of really, really, really good, let's talk about the opposite of that. Spieth's shirt.
Yeah, please. Cody, can you flash up that graphic? Guys, I don't know. Some people, and Kyle Porter, he said there have been worse shirts than this. So I'm going to walk back. I tweeted out earlier, like, this is the worst of the worst. But, I mean, it's Jordan in the amazing Technicolor golf shirt. Like, what are we doing at Under Armour? Can we set up an intervention? Like, it's just these stripes patterns that they roll out are fucking atrocious. And it
doesn't matter what color they do with them. Like, they would still be atrocious. And then they pick like bright pink and it takes it to another level of atrocious.
And I don't know if, like, I've kind of, is Spieth in the meeting like Morikawa, like on full swing? Is he picking this out? Like, I'm kind of worried that we may need to blame Jordan. Like, I don't know who to blame, but I just think it's a travesty what Under Armour rolls him out in.
We were making progress. He had some good ones earlier in the week, kind of some cool like stripe.
Yesterday
like
he had a great fit. It was
it was nice.
Under Armour seems to be all into these stripes, and then now I don't know what we're doing here, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Spieth had a good round today. Bogey free. I felt like he was really well rounded. I followed for most of it. He had some putts that he hit well that just didn't go in. He had a nice birdie on 9, hit a really good shot in and on 8. I'm buying Spieth stock. I am. I think the putter is going to get hot.
It's been a full Spieth experience this week. 69, what is it? 69, 75, 66. And 75 makes on the number, bouncing off some guy's knee, and then comes out and balls out on Saturday. Like, I love it. I love everything about it. And I'm with you, TC. I'm buying stock. It seems like he's, he doesn't look quite as comfortable over his putting, but it seems like he's found something and he's sticking to it. He's gotten rid of the pre-shot routine. He's making it work, and I like it.
KVV sent this over about his putting. He said the question was, "Are you slightly more bent over putting?" He said, "Yeah, I guess so. It's more a left arm elbow feel for me than anything. But I'm just trying to lock in this left side, which I may be a little more bent over than what I've been at my best. But the traction of everything is just to match. My ceiling putting has been the best in the world." And the question was, what was the reason for the change to be more solid inside 10 feet? He said, I had a tendency for a few years that it's been a really bad tendency. It was trying to continue to find ways instead of just in a path feel, but actually I'm trying to take my hands out and use my big muscles more. I've always been a little handsy putting in a good way. A lot of great putters are handsy. Ricky Fowler and Tiger use his hands, Ben Crenshaw. So I think I'll always have that, but I was relying on it.
God, that's awesome. The classic Spieth answer where you're like,
that went a lot of different directions.
Yeah. No, now that you've explained it to me,
I'm more confused.
I would like to invest. Where do I sign?
Is it good though that he references Ricky, who was super handsy, and now Ricky's using like a counterbalanced long
I don't know. One
putter.
of you guys said it. Maybe it was KVV, but I would like to see Jordan maybe experiment with a mallet. Just maybe, maybe a little bit more weight at the end of the club head, and I don't know. It's like he's almost experimented with everything else but the changing the putter up.
At a certain point, I want to see him stop experimenting, though, right? I mean, to still be talking about that a month out from the Masters, it's like, dude, I don't know how. It's kind of like, are you keeping all of the? If you're changing your variables consistently, like you're not like gathering enough data to figure out what works and what doesn't. Just thinking back on the Smiley Kaufman conversation we had of, every time I went to the range, I was trying something different. Like you're not like setting time in. To figure things out and whatnot. But I don't know.
When Spieth was playing his best, was he like in 2014, 2015, was he just not thinking about any of that stuff? Or was he experimenting and getting different feelings? And because it feels like he's a guy that almost needs something to be working on or needs something to keep him engaged with his golf swing.
I feel like he played with no scar tissue for like 3 full seasons, or maybe even.
But scar tissue is a different deal. Scar tissue's mental. I'm talking about like technique, right? Of feeling like he needs to get to a new position every so often.
TC, from honestly, like playing with him in Hawaii and being in the cart with him, I think he's chasing feels, and that's how he's explained it to me. I asked him, I was like, "You did this pod with Solly." back in 2016, and you're talking about how you had 3 different swing feels, and he was explaining, it's like, yes, I'm trying to get back to one of those 3. But he was like, what it feels like to me is actually now doing the opposite, like on camera. You know what I'm saying? So like he's like, he feels like he's coming inside or whatever, in that like 500-word answer that you just got. That's what he's trying, like physically, he's like, it feels the same, but then I see it on camera and it's totally different. The path of the club is different. So it's like he's combining this, like I think he's chasing a feel, but he has all this data. He's using all this data and stuff to like, figure out if that's the right thing.
You should take credit for the knowledge bomb you dropped on him right as we were finishing, right? It's never as bad as it looks, and it's never as good as it looks.
Yeah,
that one's really resonating.
Well, I can't take credit for that. I got to give credit to Norris Wilson, my Columbia football coach. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. It's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think when you watch the film. So that was a words to live by in a mediocre football career. But yeah, it did seem to stay. I thought he was messing with me. So
no, I think really like that.
Yeah, which I think for Spieth is probably, I feel like he does probably get pretty down on himself and feel like it's awful. But I don't know. He is the definition of the artist. He's awesome, man. I love watching him play.
Do we need to worry about? I'm just looking through putting stats from this week. Both JT and Zalatoris, like really, really bad putting week. Not good.
Yeah, I know. JT was messing around with a different putter. Speaking of changing up the putter early in the year, and looks like he went back to the mallet or the claw putter.
It's so frustrating to watch him play golf when he's not getting the ball in the hole, because he does all the like really hard stuff so well.
Yeah, I think there's something to. I think we talked about this. I forget if we talked about it on the pod at all, but we're always quick to say like when conditions get hard or when a certain shot is required. Like JT is the dude that has like all the shots, like more shots than anyone else. Yet at the same time, I don't think that's as valuable as like having one really good shot. Like I'd rather have Jon Rahm's like consistent fade to be able to play a lot than be able to do the 9 different shots that Tiger used to be able to do. Because it just doesn't seem like pro golf asks for that as often as, it would seem like it would. And it just seems like, I can't marry up the lack of results we've seen from him with the fact that when you go watch him, it's like, oh shit, dude, that's so freaking cool to watch you, carve that 6-iron into the back left pin in a different shape than you did on the previous hole. Yet at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, that's maybe not that required in pro golf anymore.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I also feel like he does really well when he's in position, like, on Saturday night, going into Sunday. But it's like the Thursday, Friday, Saturday stuff, he's not putting himself in position to go get a win enough. And I think that's probably, to your point, TC, like consistency on the putting green. It's like it's making those 6 to 8 to 10 footers to be in the top 5, basically.
I also think, like, I was trying to figure out a way to phrase this when I was talking with Cody earlier about you can convince yourself pretty easily if you have a bad week at the Players to like throw that result out. Like, I don't know what the similar test is here. I don't know what it means for the rest of your year. I don't think it really means anything. It's like, if you have a great result, obviously you can take the confidence that comes with that, but I would not kick myself too much if I had a bad week at TPC Sawgrass. I just don't think it.
Yeah, but that's where I push back a little bit when guys putt poorly here. Like, it's one thing to have a bad week at TPC Sawgrass, tee to green, because it is funky and, there's a lot of weird shit going on and it's very technical. But I think like, if you're putting yourself in position on that, like the greens are smooth and they're not crazy tricky. Like, you're trying to make birdies. That's where I struggle a little bit with that. With like, that's why I call out JT and Zalatoris there, because it's like, hey, this is concerning. It would be a lot more concerning or a lot less concerning if their iron play wasn't good or if they were just missing a bunch of fairways.
Let's separate that out, TC, because I'm with you in that JT's putting is a trend that lasts beyond, just this week. I think just in general of like not overreacting to this week is something that, if I was Rory or Rahm or whatever, I know Rahm withdrew with an illness. I just would not let this week get me down too much.
The only thing that I'll add there is that coming from Bay Hill, where it's very, very grainy still, and then coming up to an overseat, I wonder how much that throws guys off.
Yeah. So,
Cody, we miss anything else?
Tons.
What else?
As always.
Well, we got a whole bunch of leaderboard to go down to. We still haven't missed Rory.
No, I think we know. You know what? For once, I think we've gone so far down this freaking leaderboard pretty naturally.
Yeah. That's the way to do it. You want to get some Rory? So there's some Rory quotes today. I think we should definitely
hold on. A couple things before we get there. Neil, one of the highlights of the day, I was walking down 5, which kind of backs up to the backside of the range there. And Ches stuck around. He was on the backside of the range, absolutely grinding.
I love hearing that.
Trying to get inside that top 70, inside that top 50. You know, put me in, coach. I'm trying to get in these designated events next year.
I love it. TC, I appreciate you doing that recon for me.
Ches Fest was going on while Bez Fest was also going on the course. Had that. I saw the Tanimal today was out there. Adam Scott. Cody's got the shirt on right now. Adam Scott had he's had all sorts of different stuff going on this week. He had cream colored pants on the other day with a white shirt, which was like the painter outfit. Today he had the cream colored pants on with a tan hat, a tan sweater, just majestic.
He's the big Pantone, man. Nobody gets into the taupes and the tans and grays like Adam Scott. It's impressive. The spectrum within that certain sandbox that he's able to put out there with this fashion.
Sandbox, no pun intended.
That's right. I do want to say something about Christian Bezuidenhout. I believe I pronounced that correctly. A lot of times on the broadcast, they flash up like, oh, this guy doesn't hit it as far as, he's not long off the tee. And then they show his like TrackMan stats and he's like 178 ball speed or like 172. And so when they say that, I expect it to still make me feel like a mere mortal. Bezuidenhout, they flashed up. He was hitting like 164 off the tee. And I was like, yo, you guys weren't kidding. Like, and so I think that's, really impressive. He's got a real smooth move on the ball. And I don't mean that as a diss. It's just more of impressive. And again, back to the conversation we were having about Lingmerth, like this course allows guys like that to compete. And I wish there were more courses like that on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I'm back and forth on that. Like in theory, I agree. Yet I'm also like, this leaderboard's
no, that's fair. I guess I mean, there's some guys that I wish you could play the game with different styles, if that makes sense. So I know what you mean about like, yeah, some of these are not fun names to watch, but I wish there was a dominant golfer that didn't have to hit it. Didn't have to be the TrackMan guy, I guess is where I'm getting. And maybe I'm off base with that. Maybe that's just, these guys are freak athletes too.
Tom Kim's kind of like somebody that we can look to in that regard, being hopeful, right?
I think it goes to like the creativity required in, on like British Open courses is where my mind goes on that versus like, I don't have as much fun watching guys navigate this course, but
Harbour Town's a good comp.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Like that'll be an elevated event this
Can
year.
I get you David Lingmerth's ball speeds with driver today, Neil? Now that you brought this up, 159.2. That is off
my heart.
Off the first tee, he hit driver on 2 at 159.1. Hit driver on 4 at 160. Driver on 5, 161. We got heated up a little bit there. Driver on 6 at 159. Driver on 7, 160. Driver on 9, 160. Driver on 10, 161. 159 off 11, hit a fairway wood off 12, and then on 14 we hit 160, 15, 163, 161, and then the last hole that went in the water 160. So he did not get above 163 on the
God, he's the human second serve. I love it. That's awesome.
Some Rory quotes, if you will allow. He missed the cut today. He said, he got a question afterward. There's a theory that everything else on schedules, board meetings, talking about all this stuff is taking quite a lot out of you. What do you make of that? Is that fair? Rory said, yes, it is fair. I'd love to get back to being a golfer. Yeah, look, it's been a busy couple of weeks. It's been honestly a busy sort of 6 or 8 months. But as I said at the start of the week, everything has sort of been announced now and the wheels have been put in motion. So it should obviously quiet down from here. The question was, how hard has it been to just focus on being a golfer? He said, yeah, it's just the time management. The golf out here, that's fine, but it's more the time at home to make sure you're getting prepared, to make sure you're doing everything you can to be ready once you show up those weeks. That's where I've maybe sacrificed a little bit of time with some of the other stuff. As I said, I'm ready to get back to being purely a golfer.
Cool, Jay. Time to step up. Time to get in front of the media.
I would
sell this
also
thing.
like to see Rory get back to being a golfer. I think that's, yeah. I think last year it almost felt like when he took up the torch of like, hey, rally around me, I'm sticking around, and became kind of the face of the new PGA, whatever you want to call it. I think that inspired him, and I give him a ton of credit for like being outspoken, being the leader, and then backing it up on the course and just balling out. And then at some point, though, you're going to run yourself ragged. And it feels like, which actually reminds me of, I think it was 2 years ago when he had those quotes about trying to keep up with Bryson.
Yeah.
Like he did all the speed training and then came into players and missed the cut. And, it feels like he's struggling with the driver a little bit. And, maybe he just needs to, I think he needs to reset some things before Augusta. So maybe it's a blessing that he missed the cut. He can go get some rest and get ready for match play. And then,
he shit all over Valero in his answer. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, he said he's not going to play Valero this year. Just going to play match play. Wasn't a fan of doing that after last year. So, I think I think we're on approach number 12 going up into Augusta in terms of. I would have thought he would have done that after finishing second last year and probably his best Masters he's had. But we got a brand new approach. Shocking for Rory coming into the Masters, but also
you know what? We're still going to get the block party ready. We're still going to be ready to go. We're going to have the beers on ice, the high noons on ice. We're picking Rory to win the Masters. I don't care what we're seeing right now.
He should shut off all PGA Tour hats that he's wearing as of like right now. Like it is major championship season, and I would just sit back and relax, and not relax, but like, hey, just take the back seat on the PGA Tour stuff for now, because we're getting near the end of the important part of the PGA Tour schedule, at least as I see it, and it's major championship time, and it's time to peak for that. So,
I mean, then Jay needs to get up and do some stuff in front of people,
I wholeheartedly agree with that. It feels like, I don't know. It's almost like they prepared for the players' press conference to be the big unveiling, and then it got leaked. And I don't know. It's just like maybe just get out and more informally. I know KVV wrote about this in his piece, this week. It's like, would like to see it, get in front of the mic a little bit more, or just be a little bit more approachable. The commissioner. That's
because also it seems like the next, like that's where I struggle with a little bit with Rory. Like, can he do that? Because it's going to be like they're trying to hammer out all these details. They're still going back and forth. There's still 3 months to go or 4 months to go until they're going to announce the new schedule. Right? There's still a lot of shit to be worked out. A lot of stuff behind the scenes. You've got the Ryan Armours of the world chirping everybody. Like it's,
But that seems removed from his realm as of now, though, right? I mean, like the details of it are to be worked out with, the tour. Like the structure is there, but like the details of the schedule, I do not think, like, I don't know.
I agree with Solly on that. I think that, and that's why it is a great time for the commissioner to kind of take the wheel, because it doesn't feel like any big names are going to jump. Right? Here's the plan, guys. This is what we've laid out. Here's all the money. Here's how we're, going to do things. And other than, like you said, the Ryan Armours, the James Hahns that are unhappy about it, it doesn't feel like anybody that, no offense to them, is meaningful, is going to is like, hey, I saw Liv's plan and their plan is better. It doesn't feel like that's going to happen in the next 2-3 months. If it does, hand up, I'll be wrong. But that seems to be, there seems to be a, kind of some cohesion at the top.
Moving on. It is moving on. We're focused on legacy and not leverage.
We haven't, like, I don't want to talk about Liv and all that, but the funniest thing to me is like these guys like Ryan Armour being like, you know what? Like maybe Liv did have it right. You know what? Phil, like the whole reason that Phil went to Liv was because he wanted to get away from Ryan Armour. Like Ryan Armour and these guys are like, you know what? Like Liv's doing this over there. It's like, yeah, Liv fucking hates you, man. Like that's the whole point.
I want Ryan Armour on the pod after his comments this week. I'd love for him to talk for like 20 minutes on all the reasons why it's like screwing him and why it's bad, and then just like get to that point and be like, okay, now convince me, the golf fan, why any of that should matter. Like I get like all of your points you made. Convince me why this golf should matter in some way. But that's the
craziest part about the Ryan Armours and the James Hahns. It's like the more they talk, the more they prove the points for us, right? And it's I think some of this stuff is like, there's been people even today, like complaining about the leaderboard. And it's like, some of them, they're same people complaining about smaller fields or not having a cut. And it's like, well, which one is it, man? Like, do you want to have a guaranteed great leaderboard every time? Or do you want to have a super democratic system where it's a crapshoot and the entertainment value goes out the window a little bit? And I think, there's always a balance there, but I think the balance needs to be, let's try out the guaranteed entertainment factor a little bit more than we have here in the past.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it at that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Saturday live show from the players here. Cody, absolutely killing it on the 1s and 2s here tonight. TC, thank you for your input as always. Neil, thank you for coming in from the bullpen, giving us 3 2/3 strong innings after the starters. We're getting a little fatigued early on, so thank you for that. So
you're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in. We will be live again on Sunday night following the Players Championship. So cheers. Thank you very much to High Noon for sponsoring, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Cheers.
And following the Magical Kenya Open final round. I think that's going to be a banger tomorrow morning.
Thank you, TC.
Thank you, TC, as always. Cheers.